Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Dad Designer Podcast. I'm Michael Smith, your host, and today I'm joined by Doc Reed. Hey, Doc, welcome to the show.
Hey there, thanks for having me.
Yeah, I really appreciate you coming on. I know I reached out via Instagram, but I had heard your name. I think I mentioned this before we hit record a lot when I was at Creative South, and we didn't have a chance to connect. Partly because I'm not great at walking up to strangers and saying hello, and partly because I didn't have a face to associate with this name. Everyone just kept saying, "You got to meet Doc. You got to meet Doc." So anyway, welcome to the show. It's nice to meet you.
Thank you. It's good to be here. To be fair, I've been told I needed to get rid of my illustrated avatar and actually put a picture of my face so that people go like, that is that guy. So
yeah,
half that's on me.
Well, it's okay. I'm still using a profile picture that's probably 5 or 6 years old, when I had more hair. But why don't you tell folks a little bit about who you are, where you're from, what you do, and a bit about your family?
Yeah. Like you said, Creed, I've been in North Carolina since the late 80s. California kid born, North Carolina kid raised. So that's where the Carolina or California Vibes Carolina Charm sticker comes from. But I've got 4 daughters, ranging from 7 to 15, and been an in-house creative my entire career, and the nights and the weekends have saw fit to, I guess it's technically moonlighting or as opposed to freelancing. But yeah, that's where the I do a lot of the scratching of itches that either I can't get into work during the 9 to 5s, or I just want to go off and paint or do whatever. So that's sort of the nights and weekends, and being able to pick up odd jobs here and there, illustration, design, branding, to help things just being a larger family in here in the States. So
yeah, that's awesome. And I want to jump into, there's a lot to talk about there, both your work and your family life, but let's start with work. One of the pieces in your portfolio, and this one wasn't one you mentioned to me, but it stood out
Sweet,
because
awesome.
I love Pez.
Okay,
I feel like it's one of the best candies. It's like Nerd Clusters, then Pez.
Nerd clusters are solid. Yes.
Yeah. And I don't even take the time to put the Pez in the dispenser. It's just too much work. But I saw on your portfolio you had done the word mark and some title typography for a documentary called Pez Outlaw.
Yeah.
Talk to me about that process. I always kind of figured there had to be designers behind all of like these title arts, but I never really like knew how it came to be. So I'm also curious about that.
Yeah. Sure. It is one of those wild stories that I'll start by saying, I don't know if you hated this old phrase, but the phrase, it's not what you know, it's who you know. I hated that through college because I never wanted to make my living or build my career on the back of someone else, completely missing the mark of what it actually meant. There are some people that will do that, but it really boils down to the relationships that you have in life. And so the editor on that film was a colleague that he left Port City Community Church, and I jumped in as a designer on staff. And so we had a kinship and love of art, design, storytelling, things of that nature. So our relationship started back in Wilmington in like 2012-ish. And he has since moved to LA, doing a lot of directing and things of that nature. So the call came, was like, hey, I need some help. Here's what we've got. Here's what I'd like to do. Would you take a stab at it? Here's the turnaround time. It was a tight turnaround time. It was like, I think 2 weeks total that we had to get it sketches approved and then kick it over to an animator to do the actual motion design. But yeah, it was a lot of fun, working through how to build a static mark that would also could be exploded and turned into, a moving mark with the motion design. Evan Vetter was the editor that I worked with on that piece, and small time independent shop doing documentary. And have you had a chance to watch it?
I have not yet, because
It's on
Uh,
YouTube.
I
It's
have
off
limited
Netflix now.
time
Yes, yes,
to watch
yes.
things for pleasure.
Understood. But it is on YouTube for free, I believe.
Oh,
It's
nice.
no longer on Netflix at this
Okay.
point. But yeah, having something that you touched show up on Netflix and you see it scrolling through and you're like, hey mom, dad, like look, this is I did that. They're like, oh, that's cool. What's for dinner? But yeah, so it was a real it was a fun project. It was a little stressful just because of the time turnaround and wanting to make it right and things of that nature. And anytime there's anything associated with a silver screen or silver screen adjacent, you're just sort of like
Yeah.
the palpitations start happening and the desire to make it Oscar worthy and whatever
Yeah.
is in the mix. But it was just a fun project to sit to work with, the sketch, to brainstorm, um, kick ideas out, and what's going to work, what's not going to work, what's too much. And you want to tell a little bit of the story at the same time. You don't want to you don't want to over complicate a mark type of a thing. So but yeah.
Yeah. Are you the type of person that likes to watch title sequences, especially of like a TV show?
I do. Have you ever sat with any of the, I think it's Art of the Title
I That sounds
website?
very familiar.
It's like beautiful catalog of an archive of TV shows, movies, and like the end credits of like the Marvel animated, like first
Oh yeah.
Avenger, like those black and white and red, um, gorgeous titles. And then you've got like the Paul Rand, or not Paul Rand, Saul Bass titles
Yeah.
and things of that nature, and things. So it's a brilliant resource if you're interested in storytelling from a limited, like, end credits, opening sequence type stuff. It's pretty rad.
Yeah. Yeah, I there are some shows, cuz a lot of the streaming services now have skip intro,
Yes.
and I'm like sometimes
Crushed as a motion designer, like,
yeah. I'm like I shouldn't do this. But this title sequence isn't my favorite, but some of them I'm like, "Oh, I'm watching this all the way through."
yes,
Um
yes. There, yeah. I've skipped a couple in my time. I'm like, okay, yeah. But there are
I
some that
watched
I
it the
will
first
watch
time.
through every time. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and I feel like music plays like a big part in that too. Where it's like
Yeah.
if I can't stand the song, I'm going, I'm skipping it. Um, but yeah, yeah, that's great. And another project I want to talk about similarly was Billy. I would love to hear like the full story. Like, what is it? And yeah, talk to me about that project.
Yeah, Billy is an internal initiative with the company that I work for, Method, and it basically started as a passion project of Emily Gunther's, and she um, is our resident accessibility guru. Has done the deep dives, gotten certified, her certificates, and things of that nature. Basically, accessibility in the web and product digital design is a way to make sure that any impairments or keyboard, like, you can navigate and get through anything without stumbling through. And so there's best practices and things of that nature that ensure a smooth user experience. And oftentimes we see it a lot as digital consultants, where companies will come in and like, hey, we got all these flags that we need to take care of that we've been dinged by the APA tickets and things of that nature, that, like, we have to resolve these accessibility issues before X date or we are penalized X amount of dollars or whatever. And so the idea or the thought of, we want to make sure that it's accessible first and not a response to being dinged, was sort of at the impetus of where Billy came from. And a lot of times designers that are coming in or have gone through a boot camp or entering the field don't know those ins and outs of accessibility. So Billy was set up to be a toolkit where the components were built in such a way that they could plug and play. You could apply the brand colors and typography and things of that nature for your brand to these tokens, or to the tokens for the components. And then, you have a real quick, rough, accessible, buttons and things of that nature. So that was all happening. And as the team was talking about it and things of that nature, they're like, we need to have a mascot for this. And they started calling it Accessibility just because. And then, the brain started spinning. It was like, oh, it'd be fun to have a Billy Goat mascot. And that's sort of where I got tapped. And they were like, you should get Doc, reach out, see if he's got bandwidth to jump in and help. And so at that point, I was like, oh, yeah, it'd be fun. And of course, my branding and design background kicks in. And I'm like, I want to do this right. And so I did like the strategy of like who we wanted to target. Is it the designers or is it their managers? How do we talk to both of them? So I did the whole spectrum of competitive analysis, who is in the space, and yada, yada, yada. And so then I started realizing there were a lot of similarities between an accessibility tool and a Billy Goat, where they both navigate difficult terrain, masterfully. And so the more of those things that kept lining up, I was like, this makes a lot of sense. And so that's sort of where we dug in on the Billy Goat mascot and the Billy logo, trying not to put a goat in the logo. The little nod to the horns on a goat was, where the top of the B kicks out a little bit, but very, very subtle Billy Goat nod in the logo. But yeah, I'm still trying to work through that one and get that case study actually up and on my site. But yeah, the little teased it out on my Substack article. So
yeah. And I was going through the article and I was like, I understand like 90%, but like, where's the final?
Yeah,
which is cool.
Yeah, it's still being baked.
Nice. Yeah. What's there is cool, and the name Accessibility is just, I don't know. It scratches something in me that's like the right type of humor. Yeah.
Yeah. Say dads and designers, like, we like our puns.
Yeah.
And so yeah, it was a definite sweet spot of like, okay, I can lean in a little bit to the cheesy punniness of things. So
yeah,
it was fun.
That's cool. One of the things I also wanted to talk to you about, it's somewhat in relation to your work. This year, you transitioned to single parenthood,
Mm-hmm.
and you had mentioned earlier that you got the full-time job, you got the night stuff, and you got 4 daughters. How has that transition been? How have you been navigating carrying it all?
There are days I do it well, and there's days that it just you fall apart and you pick up the pieces from it. But yeah, it definitely wasn't something that happened by choice. Walking with Julie through her cancer battle the last 4 years was tough. But yeah, and honestly, I shared this in a LinkedIn post back in April or May, that the career and life that we have and shared was in a large part due to the weight that she carried and the support that she gave and the encouragement that she continuously gave me. And so, she didn't have a LinkedIn profile. She was a homeschool mom to our 4 girls and was the director for the last, I want to say she's the director of our homeschool community for the last 4 years. But a tutor and working in the community with the homeschool kids for pretty much the 9 years that she was in it. So, but yeah, she was a cheerleader, and whenever an opportunity would come through, like going to conferences, she'd be like, yeah, go learn, meet some people, come back, use it to get a raise or promotion, and then, continue to take care of us in bigger, better ways and things of that nature. So not having that breathing room all but eliminated the ability to have those nights and weekends that I was talking about earlier, where you scratch the itch. I think some of it still is the grieving process and trying. I don't want to stop. That would not be something that either one of us would want to happen. It's going to look different and will be an evolution of figuring out how to make it work as I transition into the how do I do school with the girls? How do I do mealtime and things of that nature? Like we would partner and help, but as far as like the mental load of like, here's what's in the pantry, here's what I got to get, here's Julie was amazing and did a large majority of that, and so that is now on my plate, and so it definitely diminishes the bandwidth that I've got once I get all the kids to bed. And especially in this season, I want to make sure that I don't disappear into art and design after hours as a way to cope with her loss and have my girls feel that they were abandoned to heal and grieve on their own. So that's been a huge part of my pause of continuing to just for lack of a better word, balls to the wall, like, hey, yeah, bedtime, cool, bada bing, bada boom. Hey, I'm going back up to the studio. And early on, Tuesdays and Thursdays were the nights that I dedicated to being in the studio. After dinner and things of that nature, I talked with Julie and was like, hey, I need to do this and I need to put time on the calendar. That way, when I'm with the family, I'm not thinking about what I need to be doing in the studio. And when I'm in the studio, I'm not regretting and feeling bad about not being with the family. So putting it on the calendar, making time for me to do that, which then made any time outside of that, I was in dad mode, was a huge win in that category of being a dad and a designer that pushed hard after hours to make things happen. But yeah, at this point, I'm 5 months in to it. And so I feel like my head is above water and it's all still very new and trying to figure it out as best I can. Still trying to figure out all the new transitions into public school and all the, homework's now online. And I'm like, I don't know how to access any of this stuff. I'm like, hey kids, will you teach me how to use a computer again? And so it's a lot of second guessing myself currently, like and yeah, just missing her strength a lot in how things would get done, and just the mental bandwidth to be able to do it. Yeah, borrowing quite a bit of her her strength that she displayed and showed the girls and myself that it's possible to endure hardship and still be gracious in those seasons. All the time, that's nearly impossible, but it is definitely possible to have hardships hit and you to not lose yourself to them. So trying my best to do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know
I
if that
feel like
answers the question.
it does. It does. And I think it's a good like reminder. Because on this podcast we often focus on who the dad is and he's the
Mhm.
designer and he's the dad and all this kind of stuff. And every once in a while there'll be like a glimmer of like, oh, how does he get it all done? It's like because there's a
Oh,
partner there
gotta
that's enabling it to get.
be. Yeah.
And so, I mean, um, yeah, which is why, and before we recorded, had mentioned that it would be okay to talk about this. I'm not
Yeah.
like
Yeah. No, you're
um
not. You're good.
putting you on the spot. I just want like listeners to know like I'm not taking advantage of this situation.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's why I kind of wanted to talk about like what does that look like now that you are responsible for all this stuff, and it is hard and challenging. Do you find that you mentioned earlier that the after hours work was kind of scratching an itch?
Mm-hmm.
Is that as strong right now, or would you say it's like kind of not as necessary? Like where is that living?
Good question. I think early on it was an itch because I knew that there was more, and some of it just I had the time and the energy. When we're dual income, no kids, it's like, oh sweet, yeah, I can
Yeah.
buy paper and screen printing supplies, and like even if our base salaries were like $26,000, um, we didn't have diapers and food and other mouths to feed and exhaustion from not sleeping and things of that nature. So there was just a lot always happening upstairs with poster ideas, desire to screen print. How do we do, photography? Julie was a photography major in college and loved doing that. And so we were constantly back and forth playing and creating and making. And um, so the early on, it was definitely more of I wanted to make and create something that I enjoyed and wanted to make, and not necessarily just be showing or only have the ability to show what I had done with work. And the old adage of show what you want to get hired to do is like, I don't really want to do a bunch of trifold brochures and pamphlets and things of that nature. If they come as a part of a larger brand project, like, okay, yeah, but don't saddle me with just a trifold and 6 pages of copy that I have to whittle down. um, so but yeah, the nights and weekends look a lot different now. There's still work happening. Most of it, the last 5 months, has been curating a lot of the cyanotype work that she would do. And for months, I was finding her prints and images in books and presses all over the house, and things that she had done but not gotten around to finishing and signing and all of that. So like I've been digitizing her signature and trying to find an embossing or an embosser to like finish all of her images out and then sort of close that season of sanitize, but then continue, because it truly was like a family making process where we'd go on walks and our girls would come back and be like, hey, would this leaf make a good cyanotype? And so being able to get out and enjoy the world around us was a huge part of the cyanotype and the making. And so I'm hoping that continues. Like 2 weeks ago, I went on a walk with my youngest and cut down some flowers and things of that nature that were growing up across the road, and came back and made some cyanotypes with her. And, we walked by a big fig tree and she's like, oh, these are awesome shapes. And so we cut a couple of fig leaves, and, they're currently being pressed. So I can make some prints with those. But yeah, it definitely shifts as life does, and the obstacles and the hills and valleys that come with life. You got to pivot. You can't just stay static. You can't do that with your career. You can't do that with your family either. So but yeah, it's definitely, I'd say right now, like I said, it's the grieving process and curating her work. And I think early on, it was I needed to do some extra things. One, to scratch the itch. Two, to bring in some extra money, because we were making $27,000. And, at each time I took a new job, I could say no to more projects that I didn't necessarily want to do. And thankfully, we're at a spot now where the day job takes care of us. And I literally can go, I don't want to do this project. I can do what I want. I can take on the Billy project and have it be, an internal initiative that I enjoy, and it scratches an itch. And if it's not going to build a portfolio piece, be a good payday, or just be something that I love or believe in, like, I don't have to do it.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. The dad designer moniker, I think I've mentioned this on the podcast. It started out as like a dad blog in 2014
Okay.
ish, when we had one kid.
Mm.
Then over time, like each year, and then you add another kid, the posts got less
shorter and less frequent.
Yeah. I used to shoot all my own photos for the things and like everything, and that's not a reality anymore. But yet I still do, keeping it alive in some capacity. But yeah, it shifts. You're right, it does shift quite a bit as life goes on. I wanted to ask you two other questions before we kind of wrap up. And those are like, as a dad, what has been your greatest joy? And what has been your biggest learning?
As I say, I know I've heard a couple of your other guests talk about the shifting of joy over the seasons of their children's years with them. And yeah, it is very much true. Like the joys of them being excited and wanting to work with you. One of my favorite memories of our little small townhome in Wilmington was screen printing at the kitchen table. And my older two were like, we want to help, we want to do this. And so teaching them, here's a squeegee, hold it, pull it towards you, and, you know, make some prints, make some art prints. And then just being able to spend time with them and realize that they cherish you in a way that you have forgotten how to do, because you had that awe with your family. I had that awe with my parents and just, you know, wanted to be their shadow. And, you know, you grow up and you're like, oh, too cool to hang out with dad anymore. And I don't want anybody to know I like making cake in the kitchen with mom type of a thing. And you sort of step away from that. And so like right now, the joys of experiencing that still with my younger 7 and 9-year-old, and then feeling the separation of the 13 and 15, I'm like,
I'm glad I'm
but
not alone.
no, no. I mean, you probably also felt this as a dad, where the newborn stage, you're like, they want nothing to do with you. Their
Yeah.
world is mom. And then, you know, 6 months in, they're just like, all right, what you got, dad? And they start coming around. And like, that was pretty amazing that they would, you know, see you and smile and light up and want to be held. And it's pretty awesome when those moments do happen, that you have to be incredibly intentional about fostering that, because if you squash it when they're like, you know, 2 and 5, and, you know, you obliterate that trust, like when they get to the 13 and the 15 years and whatnot, it's kind of like, I don't really want to snuggle with you. I don't trust you. I don't know that you have my well-being, or that you're going to take care of my heart. Which that is the fact that my older two have snuggled with me on the couch here this week that's a win. We don't always talk. I'll ask them how things are going, but sometimes, you know, you get the teenage answers of like, it's fine. But the fact that they still want to hang out with me, snuggle on the couch, want to run an errand, that's pretty awesome. But yeah, being able to walk through this incredibly difficult season of life and having them show up the way that they are, has been pretty incredible too. Like I'm nervous that I don't want them to feel like they have to step into a parent role and take care of me. And oftentimes at dinner time, they bring the tears to my face, and I'll have a thought and they can see it on my face, and they just will check in. The fact that we raised gracious, caring daughters is incredible. So that's a pretty big joy. But the biggest learning also sort of stems from that is you can't let your default setting be anger and rage. And when you go through something like this, where you lose a spouse, or, you know, life kicks you in the teeth, you do have a choice on how you show up. And that if you weren't aware of them being little mini recorders when they were babies, the technology has only gotten more advanced, and they can repeat everything that you say when they get into their teens and things of that nature. So being able to know that they are watching and they love you and they want to see how you show up, and when it's okay to be, you know, angry and sad and joyful, and, you know, understanding the difference between a like a righteous anger and just somebody cut you off in traffic. Like very different things. And yeah, I'm like, come on, in the car, and like from the back seat, you know, it's just like, yeah, what's their problem? And I'm like, oh man. But yeah, and I think somebody had said something about like surround yourself with people whose eyes light up when they see you coming, and oftentimes we think about that as our peers and our colleagues, and how we can grow our careers and our lives and things of that nature. But there's nothing that compares to coming home from work and having your kids like run and like tackle you, and the way that they light up when they see you coming, hands down the brightest thing ever. And so I think making sure that as dads we don't forget that when they age out of the dad's home, and they enter the elementary and they enter the middle school and the high school years of teen angst and all of that stuff. Like they still love you. Hold on to that. You came around, I came around to where like my dad's one of my favorite people. And yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I really, really appreciate you. Yeah, just sharing all of this. I know it's still fresh and it's not easy to do, but yeah, I'm grateful for all the dads that come on here and get real. That's why I keep doing it. So yeah, if folks wanted to find you online or connect with you, where could they go to do that?
I am less active these days on all social media just because of our situation, but Substack, I tried write some things every now and again with Curiosity Kindling. I'm on Instagram at I am Reedicus, and over on LinkedIn, you can find me as Doc Reed. So
Nice,
yeah,
awesome. Well, yeah, I appreciate your time and for all the things that you shared.
yeah, man, I appreciate you letting me come on here and talk a little bit.